All right, everyone, we are live. Thank you, everyone, for joining the stream tonight, and we hope you had a fantastic camp out for those of you who attended. I've got here with me today Jordan, the founder himself of the Vegan Camp Out. We're going to be talking about this year's camp out and next year's camp out. You're going to be able to have your questions answered. If you've got a question, ask it towards the end of the stream, because that's when I'll be asking them. I won't be able to note down all the questions coming in right now, but thankfully there are a bunch of questions I'll be asking anyway that you may already be asking, that I've got written down anyway. So your question may likely be answered as it happens. Super chat for guaranteed answer anytime. You can super chat as soon as you want, and you'll get your question answered at the end of the stream, guaranteed. Jordan, for those people out there who don't know who you are, did you want to just briefly introduce yourself?
Yep. Oh, haven't practiced speaking yet. Hey, so yeah, I'm Jordan, founder, owner, director of Vegan Camp Out. Yeah, the world's biggest vegan camping festival, UK's biggest vegan event. And yeah, started in 2016. This year was our 8th year. I'm sure we'll get into the details a bit more. Only got home today, and yeah, you asked me if I wanted to come on, talk about camp out stuff. Haven't given this much thought, so yeah, just gonna get into it, discuss a few different things whilst camp out's still fresh in everyone's heads, only having happened last weekend. So yeah.
Nice. And no pressure, Jordan, but this is without doubt the most number of people that I've had start a live stream watching. I've got 79 viewers right away at the start. Usually my live streams are like 20 or so people at the start. So no pressure for all the little questions and stuff we've got coming your way. Right. So let's talk about this year's event first, and then we'll come on to next year's later. What were your highlights of this year's event?
Oh, highlights. I mean, some of the acts were like pretty cool. I was very much looking forward to see Kate Nash, like well, really all of like the music headliners. I don't know if you saw any of them, like P-Money, Maccabee, and Kate Nash. There was just such a an amazing feeling in the room. Like, you know, obviously we've had that a few times with like JME and people like that, but it's definitely at them moments where it feels like you could be at any other festival, but knowing that like for the most part everyone in there is like really kind and compassionate, and you're probably not going to see like an argument, never mind a fight. And obviously for me on a personal level, the fact it's my event and you just look around and see like a sea of people, it's just like, wow, this is like still 8 years in, crazy. So that there was that. But other highlights that's like different to other years, I think the arena layout that quite a few people have commented about felt much more like a real festival, well, another festival this year. It's certainly a big improvement on last year, because God, last year just so much went wrong that it was kind of everything was finalized so late in the day and we couldn't make changes. But we definitely had a lot more time in terms of where stuff went this time. And yeah, even like the new additions we had, like the block that Ellis organized, and then what was the other new additions? The Hemp Redemption stage,
yeah,
and the Mind and Body After Dark. That all also added to it, just feeling like there was so much going on. Like, you know, we had 8 stages this year. I think I probably went in 3 or 4 of them over the whole weekend, which is also just how busy I was with stuff. But like, yeah, even if you were a punter, there was so much going on that you could certainly go to somewhere else if you know, got bored or was, you know, fed up of being in the same place. So yeah, that's probably the other highlight, and also just how many food vendors we had this year as well. Like the food was definitely probably the highlight.
Would I be right in saying that the number of food vendors was actually a world record for number of vegan vendors in one place or at one festival or something like that?
It definitely is for the UK. That's what we said it as, like the UK's biggest selection of vegan food in UK history, but it probably could be for the world. Not without obviously like saying any like opinions on other people's events, so I won't name them, but there obviously is an event in America that back in their like heyday potentially could have had more, but given that we went and visited that same event this year, it was like half the number now, but that's more to do with just like decline in numbers for that event. But yeah, it's potentially the most of all time ever, but it's also potentially, you know, maybe the second or the third if this event in America had more back in the day when they had bigger numbers. So yeah.
Amazing. And tell us about what the block and the hemp redemption stage were for anyone who didn't get a chance to go to this year's camp out, or for anyone who just didn't manage to check those two little bits out.
Yeah, so the block was something that Ellis, someone else on our team, Dim, and their friend Lucas put together to have kind of more like a, yeah, you know, rap, grime, hip hop, R&B kind of area, which was pretty cool, especially because we don't have that as one of our three main after parties anymore. So that was good for people to be able to have DJ sets from all them different kind of, you know, genres that fall under the rap and hip hop labels. And yeah, I didn't even get to go in there until like late Sunday night for like 5 minutes, and then got called to something else. But the energy and the vibe in there was like great. I was so proud of what they'd done. So that was amazing. And then kind of complete polar opposite, you had the hemp redemption stage that obviously is owned by Mobius Loop. So it's all very kind of like chill and acoustic and, you know, folky and that type of thing. So yeah, you know, if rap music isn't your thing, that was like another edition, and that was all like open mic sets that we didn't have like times for that on the stage times or anything. So yeah, I know there was a few issues with like sound clashes and stuff, but again, I think a lot of people that maybe don't always go to other festivals, like sound clashes are brutal at other festivals where you're literally listening to two things at the same time. There could have definitely been a better like positioning and stuff, which we'll definitely take on board for next year. And yeah, we did try and like reduce sound levels where there was a bit of bleed, but I think overall it worked. And whilst sometimes you could hear other things coming from the tents, you know, you could still hear what you were listening to at that stage enough. So yeah, quite proud of all the new areas, really.
Yeah, that's always going to happen at festivals, isn't it? You're always going to hear a little bit of the other thing wherever you are. I mean, it's going to have to be loud. I mean, being that you're at a festival, and I enjoyed, you know, it's not even super my type of thing, like the kind of music that was on at the block. Like, I'm not massively into hip hop, and the hemp redemption stage as well. There was a lot of kind of folk stuff and all that kind of stuff going on, but I loved it all nonetheless, because it just had a great vibe about both stages and really talented performers on at the hemp redemption stage, even if it was genres like you're not into or whatever, and a great little vibe at the block with that music going on sort of late night as well. I've heard a lot of good things as well, looking in the camp out group, about non-vegans in attendance who, you know, they went and then ended up going vegan. Have you been seeing quite a bit of that from this year's festival, and has that been different compared to previous years or not?
Oh yeah, I've seen loads. We haven't posted any of them yet. I don't know if it's worth screenshotting them all and making it into a post or something. But yeah, I've had so many messages like on my, because I don't really even check camp out emails virtually ever, but on my own Facebook, I've probably had like 40 people message me saying like that non-vegans they took because of our non-vegan scheme, because obviously I also gave some of them non-vegan tickets to a lot of like my personal Facebook friends, so they got a load as well. And yeah, I've seen so many of people saying like they've decided to go vegan. I think one of them, someone's granddad or something that they took, sent them a photo of them throwing out all the meat in their house or something. So like, you know, some 80, 85-year-old dude that I think had been quite like, you know, as a lot of older people kind of generally are kind of, you know, not that interested in the thing, which, you know, kind of is standard of people of that generation. But yeah, to get to go to the festival, and, you know, who even goes to a festival at like 85? So that's just cool in itself. But the fact that it actually had an effect on them, and they decided, you know, to throw out the meat in their house can only be a good sign as far as the vegan message and the animal rights message. So yeah.
Absolutely. And, I think that's one very important thing to mention that, because I do hear the odd comment every year saying, why are non-vegans allowed there? And, if it's a vegan festival, but the idea is we want non-vegans to be there, to come into our spaces, to try out all the amazing food, to go to the talks, to watch the documentaries that we're showing there, to actually see the things that we saw that made us go vegan. So what would you quickly say just to anyone who says, why don't you just make it a festival that's vegans only? What would you say to those people?
Yeah, I mean, that to me is saying, why don't we just keep the world our vegan circle only and not let anyone else in? It's like, if you're an ethical vegan that wants the message to spread, then keeping it small echo chamber of our, 2% of the population is like the worst thing you can possibly do. I mean, I think there is an argument to be made if it was like, I don't know, 50% vegans, 50% not that I would have an issue with that. And as far as animal rights and the message goes, that's a great thing. But I can also see for people how, I don't know, there'd be a lot more arguments and you wouldn't feel like you're in a space filled with people that, for the most part have something in common with you. But, it's not like it's 50-50. It's more like 75-25. And then even that 25, an awful lot of vegetarians come in. Obviously, for the most part, they're not as closed off to veganism because, they're already kind of like halfway there. Like loads of vegetarians come because they love the event so much and they agree with the vegan message, even if they haven't like fully gone there themselves yet. But it seems to be after a few years, you do see the posts of them saying, I went for a few years as a vegetarian, loved the event, and it took me a while, but eventually I made that commitment to, becoming fully vegan. So, yeah.
And another thing that I noticed about this year, definitely in comparison to previous years, was just the huge range of nationalities there. I mean, you always do get people from all over the world there. But this year it was particularly prominent, wasn't it? I was finding, in a good way, by the way, I think this is great, that often I was like the only British person in a group of people. Like I'd be mingling with different people and I'd be the only Brit there. And I thought that was absolutely amazing. So how did you, what happened there? How did you, is this something you noticed yourself with ticket sales? Would I be right in saying there was a significant high proportion of overseas attendees this year?
Yeah, I mean, I always like to be honest. The honest answer to that is that I don't know because I didn't look in the ticket sales for like how many overseas people we have. I always ask for the data like a week before the event just to know how many different countries are coming because that obviously kind of decides our post on all the different flags and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I did definitely see, even in the volunteers that we had, so many of them were not from the UK. I would say like 50% of them were overseas volunteers, so that was quite surprising. But yeah, as I said, I didn't actually get to spend much time at all. Maybe 4 to 5 hours across the whole weekend. I actually spent in the arena or the campsite, like getting food or speaking to people or seeing acts. So yeah, you would have noticed that much more than I did. But it's cool and it's not necessarily surprising because as the vegan camp out festival gets more exposure worldwide, you do see people saying like, oh god, I see this every year, like eventually I'm coming. And I have seen definitely a lot of comments this year in the build up to the event of people saying like, I'm finally coming, I'm coming all the way from this country. But I just thought that was quite normal, to be honest. But yeah, that's interesting that maybe there was a lot more non-Brits this year.
And what was the reception like this year to the speakers that you had? I know you had a huge amount of speakers this year. There was loads going on because you had the education stage, the main stage. There was even your talk on the music stage. There was, I think, the odd like talk or speech maybe even at the hemp redemption stage and at the We the Free, the little legacy stall as well. There were like little talks and stuff going on. So there was, I think it's the camp out that's had probably the most number of educational talks and workshops going on as well, just because of all the different little areas. It was almost overwhelming at times to know kind of what to go to in a good way. Yeah. So what was the reception that you've had this year to kind of like the talks and stuff? And were there any kind of speakers that you've got feedback on that people really enjoyed and wanted to see again?
Yeah, not really. There's not much to say about that. I haven't seen too many people make comments about that. But yeah, in a more generalized way, yeah, just with the talks and the education stuff, but then all the different music stuff as well. Like I say, we definitely had the most on offer this year than we've ever had, and I think yeah, people definitely noticed that too across all of the 8 stages, 8 areas. But yeah, I haven't seen too much feedback. As always, you see a lot of people that love to talk, then you see some people that didn't agree with the talk, and we always try and say, well, still try and be respectful. Like it's fine if you didn't agree with everything you heard, that's fine as well. But so yeah, I don't know. I don't know too much about the feedback of the talks. I know some that were a bit controversial for people. I know a few that got heckled. I know I know some people definitely weren't happy, maybe people with kids, at one thing that happened, which I've seen quite a few comments about, but yeah.
Interesting. And let's go now into some of the criticisms, feedback that you've had of this year's camp out. What were some of the things that you had to announce on your page that would be rectified? Because every time camp out happens, the overwhelming majority of us, we have a great time, we love it, it's fantastic. But there's a few things we put forward to you and say, Jordan, maybe next year you got to sort this out, or why did this happen this year? Which can always happen at any festival. What were some of the problems that you encountered this year and some of the feedback?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the main one, which is what we addressed in our post, is that the water went off for a while. I don't know exactly how long. It was a while.
Yes.
Yeah.
Too long.
Yeah, you might be able to say. Definitely maybe 11 to 13 hours or something. But yeah, so that was a big issue. Obviously, we and the team and the people in charge of the water were doing everything they could, because it was super important that there was still some water for obviously people to drink more than anything, and also for the food vendors to be able to trade. That's always more important than the showers or certain toilet blocks working. But we always made sure there was drinking water. So yeah, that was a big one. There's a few reasons why that happened.
Yeah, can you tell us why that? I think a lot of people might be wondering why that was. Why did the water go out twice?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still finding out. These things often take weeks after the event for proper reports, because people don't necessarily always realize that there's the team of us that's 15 people, but then there's probably 100 to 200 people on site in charge of all the different areas, and so we still need a proper team brief over it all. But basically, there was an accident, including a vehicle that essentially shut off the water, and it all leaked, I think either overnight or from about 10 p.m. on the Friday through to I think 8 in the morning. And so obviously then we had to wait until 9 a.m. to get extra water in. And then even when you bring emergency water onto site, it can take anywhere between 6 and 12 hours to actually refill and be pumped to all the different places. Even then, when it was on, as you say, there was then a time, I think especially in VIP, but they were kind of just playing catch up at that point, because it was refilling, they were trying to get it out to different areas at once. And if people used a lot of that water, then it would kind of deplete, and then it would have to refill again. I think once it was all refilled and properly kind of put out everywhere, it was consistent at that point. But yeah, even at almost all festivals, there's still periods where the water goes down or it's not working in certain areas, and it's a whole formula, whole combination of them getting it out to different places. So yeah, at that point it just kind of becomes normal kind of festival issues when it comes to water. But yeah, the main thing was to do with that initial leak, which was pretty shit. And then after that, yeah, other main issues, like I say, there was a few people said about the sound bleed, but that wasn't a major one. Obviously, as you know, because you were in VIP, a load of people ended up camping in VIP that weren't supposed to be there. So we're definitely going to fix that next year, which we'll speak about next year stuff. But there's so much that Bicester restricted us on in terms of signage, because it's such a windy site, meaning that signs couldn't go high up so people could see them. And so many signs have to literally go on the floor. which understandably means a lot of people don't end up seeing them.
One thing I'll just mention, actually, when we got there, we didn't even know if we were in the VIP camping bit because there was no sign saying we were. We literally had to ask people around, like, are we in the right bit and stuff. So there was obviously the signage problem. Toilets, we've had a lot of feedback about the toilets as well.
I was just going to speak about that.
So tell us what the main criticisms you had were with the toilets this year.
I mean, so we increased the toilets massively from last year, which, unless you were in VIP because of the extra people, and we certainly didn't have enough in the caravan area, but that's like, about 10% of all the people at the event. So everyone else, I was thinking like, oh damn, like, is there not enough again? But actually, from reading the comments, almost everyone has said, oh no, there was enough toilets. Like, there was noticeably way more toilets than last year. But I don't know whether people were just using them more, or that there wasn't as much of a cleaning team. Like, we don't necessarily agree every single aspect of the festival, like, because we're not always going to know exactly how many people you should have for each thing. We get experts in who know this stuff. Different cleaning companies tell them all the stats, tell them obviously it's a vegan crowd, this is where we're going to have toilets, and we're told like this will be the number, and we're looking over, and clearly either the cleaning team didn't do enough hours. Like, I saw one comment of someone saying like, do you not realize that you need a cleaning team that empty the toilets every day? And it's like, not only are they done every day, they're done multiple times per day, but that's not always like noticeable. But yeah, clearly next year it wasn't so much, except from VIP and the caravans, that we didn't have enough toilets, but I just think we need a much bigger cleaning team. There was other issues that can like be put down to like just people's experience, because I had friends that went in toilets and overheard people being like, oh my god, like the toilet's so full, it's disgusting, and they went in, pumped it down with their foot, and it all went away, and the person was like, oh my god, I didn't even realize you needed to do that. So there's always
some people weren't even flushing.
Exactly. Like, that happened quite a few times. So maybe, I don't know, we need to put a fucking sign on every door saying like, please make sure you use the pump. Like, it's always going to be a mix of issues, but except from them two areas, there was enough toilets. We clearly need to get an even bigger cleaning team for next year, and maybe just put out some memos on how to actually get rid of the waste in there. But and a lot of other people, I've seen so many comments today of people being like, oh my god, because there's so many comments that are like the toilets were so clean, and then there's so many comments of people being like they were so bad. And I think the people who are talking about the clean ones are mostly on about the luxury loos. And I've seen so many comments today of people being like, what, luxury loos? I didn't even know they existed. So I think so many people in general camping, I don't know how they missed them because they were huge, didn't know that like there was like, I think 6 or 8 blocks of luxury loos that obviously had sinks and mirrors and proper cubicles, and they were in like amazing condition. And like anything in maths, as more people were using the portaloos and not using them, it made them super clean and the portaloos like really bad.
Okay, how come the luxury... I noticed those luxury toilets in the general camping that look fantastic. How come they weren't in VIP?
So last year, there was one block of luxury ones in VIP, because that's what was advertised, like you get your own block, because obviously it was only like 400 people. And then we also threw in some portaloos extra, just so then people still had that choice and they weren't all using the luxury ones. There wasn't that exact same allocation this year, one block of luxury and another 3 or 4 portaloos. But the people who set up the toilets, or the person who did the map, thought, I think from like plumbing and water, because so much goes into like, obviously portaloos don't need water, whereas the luxury ones do need water and they do need electric. And they said that the best option was to have the luxury ones in the VIP chill out zone and the portaloos in the campsite. But feedback has been that it would have been better the other way around. So, maybe that's what we need to do next year. But yeah, it was the same as last year in terms of one block of luxury and then like another 3 or 4 portaloos. But they decided, I think because of where electrics and plumbing was, that the luxury ones would be better in the little chill out zone. But yeah, next year, maybe we just put them both together. Or I think we said in our post 2 nights ago anyway, that we'll just make sure that both blocks are luxury loos. this time, the ones in the campsite and the chill out zone. So yeah.
Right, enough toilet talk. Oh, apart from one more question, just because I need people to know this, because I think a lot of people are unclear just about the costs of running festivals and stuff. I think you mentioned in a post last year the staggering cost of how much it even is to get toilets for a camp out. Are you allowed to say on the stream how much it did cost to get toilets in?
Yeah, so what we actually said was not, because people want about toilets and showers. And so what we said is that every cost that can come down to toilets and showers, and obviously that includes the electric for them, the cleaning for them, the water for them, we worked out to be, I think, about 80 to 90K. So yeah, it is a lot. But obviously it's an important cost. I'm not saying like, I'm not saying that, yeah, it's not an important cost, and we want to save costs on that. So yeah.
Okay, and then another bit of critical feedback I heard about the camp out this year was, and this is something I noticed as well, as soon as I walked out of the sort of main entrance, but it was still on site, there was, I think, a Kelly's ice cream van, the dairy ice cream company. Now, a lot of people were like, hang on, what's going on there? Why is there a non-vegan ice cream van on site? What was going on there?
Yeah, so basically they spoke to us at Vegan Dale when we were there a few weeks ago, because they were also only doing like vegan ice cream then. And they asked like our bar manager, it wasn't something I sorted, obviously I knew it was happening, I'm not trying to pass the blame, but they kind of, like, our bar manager sorted kind of, because obviously you get the food vendors, and then you get the stores, and I'm much more involved in that, even though I'm still not as involved these days. But then kind of like everything that's external on site in terms of like bars and the Tango ice flash machine, for example, and then this ice cream van, they asked the bar company, you know, could we sell ice creams in the campsite? And they said yes. Obviously, they made sure that, you know, all of it was vegan. You know, it might still have some non-vegan signage up because they are just a regular ice cream van. But yeah, you know, that there was an ice cream van in the campsite selling vegan ice cream and, you know, ice lollies and stuff. But yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So just to clarify for anyone wondering, that Kelly's van that was sort of just on site in the entrance, that was only selling vegan ice creams. And then in the camp out itself, there were several fully vegan ice cream vendors. So yeah, it was all vegan ice cream on site, essentially from multiple vendors. One just happened to be a non-vegan company, but wasn't actually in the main arena anyway. That was just sort of like as you kind of enter the campsite. What was the deal with litter as well this year? By the way, it looked very clean and stuff. What we packed up, like, litter was extremely low, probably the lowest litter you'll find for any festival that you'll go to in the UK. But one thing I noticed was in the actual main arena, the bins were being cleared fairly, you know, they were overflowing a bit, but that's going to happen. But they were being cleaned up. But in like the VIP areas and then maybe one or two other, like the bit as you walk out and stuff, the bins look completely overflowed, like rubbish all over the floor, and it didn't look like the cleaning team had attended to them at all. Was there an issue that went wrong there?
Again, once I kind of get all the details of everything, I would never want to speak about something I don't know about. But yeah, I mean, it's possible that the cleaning team didn't know about certain areas. They were certainly given the maps, like, you know, we never would have only said, oh, clean these areas and not these. But it's possible, you know, often what we find with these situations is people think, same with the toilets, like that they're not being done because they might see them in a bad state, go away for the day, they're clean during the day, and then by the time they come back again, they're in a bad state. And so people understandably think like, oh, they haven't been done. So yeah, I mean, it's possible that they were missed. It's possible that they were done, but were done less often than the other places. And so they filled up quicker. But yeah, you know, they're the main two things really for next year. Obviously, there's massive changes for next year, which maybe we'll speak about. But in terms of like small changes to what we already have, like, yeah, a bigger cleaning team for the toilets and for the bins, which, you know, wouldn't even necessarily cost all that much more, just, you know, keeps everything cleaner and looking nicer throughout the event. And, you know, even though, like you said, for the most part, it's a pretty clean event with a good vibe, it's still nice to have toilets and bins that aren't overflowing. So yeah.
And yeah, how was I guess one thing as well, some people mentioned is stuff about sustainability with reusable cups and stuff. But I noticed at the bar there was the option, right, to buy a reusable cup. Tell us about that kind of stuff and your recommendations with that to any campers who want to be sustainable when they're purchasing drinks.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know too much about the bar stuff just because, you know, I get sent the menu. I do get sent like what cups are going to be used. It was only a last minute addition for the whole reusable cup that people could buy and reuse throughout the weekend or take home. And, you know, yeah, I said that was a good idea. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, you know, that is stuff that matters to the bar people, like the people who run that are ethical vegans themselves. They're not just a random bar company. Not that there'd be anything wrong with that. It's what all festivals do. But, you know, ours are vegan, and we did speak about sustainability. You know, if anyone has any kind of like issues with anything on sustainability in terms of the bar is concerned, you know, feel free to, you know, let us know, and we'll certainly pass that on when we have a proper debriefing with the bars. But yeah, there are different issues in terms of like cups that can be used, and also costs. Like it's always that battle to, you know, keep prices as low as we can, because God, if we were to have like the same prices that all other festivals have for bars, we would get a lot of backlash. And so yeah, we try and do what we can with the prices that we do, but there's always room for improvement for sure. And if people have any great ideas for next year, but all is.
Did you have a WhatsApp broadcast channel set up for this year's camp out?
Yeah, we did, but we didn't use it because only like I think 150 people joined it or something, so we didn't really end up using it for anything.
Yeah, I think, because I think that would be a fantastic idea if you really heavily promoted that. I never remembered it being advertised. Otherwise, I'd have been in it. I'm all over camp out stuff, and I think I was yakking on at you like last year or the year before to make a broadcast channel, but even I missed it. So I think next year really heavily promote a WhatsApp broadcast channel, and you can get thousands.
Let me just turn the light on. I'm still listening.
Yeah, feel free.
Oh, didn't make that much difference. It's a bit better. They're gone.
Yeah, next year really heavily promote a WhatsApp broadcast channel in the run up to it, and that will be really handy for announcements during the festival. You know, there's, you know, the water's down here. You know, touch wood that doesn't happen, or whatever it is. And I think that will really keep people kind of reassured and content and happy, sort of as the event's going on, that, you know, any kind of worry that they have is being addressed or seen to. What was
we usually use the stories for that, because like for how much we would have to push it to get enough people in there that it's actually effective, I don't know if we'd ever get like, even maybe at most after a lot of pushing we'd get like 2,000-3,000 people in there, but on our stories we get like 5,000 to 10,000 views throughout the weekend anyway. So it's just, yeah, like you want the most people to see something. But yeah, if we could get everyone to join, that'd be great.
Do it. Was there anything else you wanted to say about this year's camp out, or should we move on to building the suspense for next year's amazing camp out and get talking about that?
Yeah, I'm happy to move on to next year's stuff.
Awesome. So yeah, you did a speech on the music stage at this camp out just been.
Yeah, you said that earlier. It was still the education stage that I did my speech on. Oh, or do you mean last year or this year?
I think this year you actually did the announcement on the music stage.
Oh yeah, we did the announcement. Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, so that announcement you made, you said it's the end of vegan camp out as you know it. Tell us why that is. Let's get talking about camp out 2025 now.
Yeah, so as fairly good, you know, I'm always very self-critical of my festival. I have to enjoy it and be happy with it, and that's not always the case, and it'd be wrong if it was. So yeah, as good as kind of good. Hopefully, I know to a lot of people it's still been really good, so that's great. But to me, as kind of good as Vista has been for the last 2 years, for both me and for all the people who I see commenting, saying like, oh, you know, I wish you were back at Stamford Hall, or somewhere like Stamford Hall that had trees and you know, shade and actually looks like a festival venue. You know, I've seen many people say, you know, this is still okay, but it has lost that feel of a proper festival. Or even many people that have said like, you know, no shade against you, but I'm just not gonna, who came last year in 2023 and said, I'm not gonna come again until you're at a site that kind of, yeah, feels more like a festival, feels more like Camp Out used to be. And, you know, that's completely understandable. And to a degree, I agree. So yeah, like, you know, we had the option and did speak to the venue about kind of, you know, renewing our contract, but they, you know, and not even say anything negative about the venue too, because for the most part they've been great. But there's so many limitations at Bicester in terms of, yeah, no shade, no trees. It's a very windy site because it's got no trees. Our like noise limit there, because of all the houses, is very low, has to end very early. And then this year, probably because of like complaints from the locals, they made us finish even earlier on the Sunday only at 11 p.m. So when that happened, I was already in two minds of, are we going to move venue yet again? But when that happened, I was like, okay, like 12 was already my absolute like cutoff for what I would be okay with. But now it's 11 on a Sunday. We have to move venue, and you know, it gave me so much anxiety because, you know, as we've spoke about in the past, like moving a venue is such a big deal. Like there is so much you have to consider with, you know, timings and licenses and location, obviously price, you know, acreage, ethical issues tied to that venue, just so much. But yeah, we ended up finding what I would call the most perfect venue for Camp Out that we've ever had. Camp Out, that a venue that ticks like all the boxes we could possibly want. Maybe except from one, that it doesn't have signal, but it means we're going to have to spend about 40k on Wi-Fi that actually works for everyone. But that's really the only negative. Even when we didn't have signal at all at Stamford Hall, that was not even one of the biggest issues of that year. For the most part, people like quite enjoyed probably not being on their phone all the time, but that's not going to be the case next year. But yeah, so at a venue again that has shade, has trees, has woodland areas, which is where like the, you know, the like slipshod area for all the outdoor DJ sets is going to be. So even better than it was at Stamford Hall that had like this just little tiny woodland area. Because this venue is like a proper festival venue, so it's used to always having big parties and big like drum and bass festivals and all the rest. So we're not going to get complaints from the neighbors. They have like the best premises license of like any venue in the country. It's insane. But at the same time, we're still going to have everything else Camp Out has. Like I've seen a few comments being like, oh, is it just going to be a big rave now? And yeah, like the answer to that is Camp Out is going to be exactly the same, except from it's a new venue, new date. It's going to be a day longer for those that want to come a day earlier, which is pretty exciting as well. And it's going to have woodland, trees, no wind issues. It means we can actually have signs high up again, like we always used to have. So it's just going to look prettier and more, yeah, you know, better signage. And we get to have louder and later after parties again. So, you know, very much like Camp Out 2018 to 2022 in that sense.
So what would you say are the biggest things that you're looking forward to for next year's Camp Out with regards to the improvements? What are the things what's maybe one of the one or two standout things that have made you just go, wow, yes, this venue is absolutely the one?
Yeah, like all of the trees, all of the, you know, like when you're in an open field, you like, and people will still say that like, oh, it felt very open this year. And that was with us spending like tens and tens and tens and tens of thousands to create like some kind of boundaries to areas. And like, it still felt super open because without investing probably like 100 to 200k, maybe even more, it's just going to feel so open. So when you can be at a venue that has all of the areas marked out already by tree lines, it changes so much to your like spatial, you know, it's all maths, it's all shapes, like you feel like you're in an area as opposed to just open nothingness that has tried to be divided. So yeah, that's probably the main thing. You know, aside from that, it's like any other venue. We're still going to have our arena, we're still going to have the campsite, so none of that's necessarily all that special. yeah, it's about the trees, it's about the aesthetics, and yeah, it's about actually from like, you know, the people who think the event's going to change, it's not. If partying and DJ sets aren't your thing, it's gonna, everything else is still going to be there. But for those who are into partying, which I certainly am, but we also have that, you know, probably 25 to 33% of our audience that are younger and are into partying. The partying is going to be the best it's ever been at any other camp out. It's not just returning to 2018 to 2022, like the fact that it's going to be in the woodlands with like amazing lights and amazing strobes and have that intimate feel is just going to be amazing. And actually, I'll say it now as well. We've never said this before. It's all quite new. We are going to be the most varied, because everything's going to combine. And so rather than there be like slipshod and like, there'll still be the hemp redemption stage, because that's also going to be in another part of the woodland, you know, very chill. That's not party music, right? But in terms of the different party music, like rock music and rap music and dance and drum and bass, rather than individual areas, that's all going to be combined within the woodland under this like woodland rave, woodland DJ area. And so we genuinely are going to probably be the most varied festival genre in any event in the country when it comes to this, because we're going to have a DJ set for rock, metal, punk, trance, drum and bass, techno, you know, rap, hip hop, grime, like everything you can imagine. There is going to be a DJ set for. So all weekend, it's just going to be different people going into that area to check out the kind of music they like, and it's going to be crazy, because you're going to have like drum and bass followed by metal followed by like garage. Like it's going to be so cool. Like,
awesome, man. I can't wait. And yeah, with the size of the venue as well and the aesthetic of it with all the trees and stuff, I'm really looking forward to that, because I think there was so much like soul and intimacy in the first one or two camp outs maybe. And then as the camp out got bigger and more open, the events were fantastic, but it lost a little bit of that kind of intimacy, that soul. It seemed more, you know, these big open kind of commercial arenas and that kind of thing, where you don't have that same level of vibrance, of aesthetic. It doesn't feel as social. So I think I'm really looking forward to this venue. Let's get actually then the main question, I think, about this venue off everyone's lips, because I've heard a lot of talk about this on social media. Now, the attendance for the camp out that happened last weekend, what was the attendance last weekend?
About 12,000.
12,000, so a huge number. You know, absolutely fantastic job there with all the tickets and the attendance. The question then, Jordan, on everybody's lips is, why are you downsizing, and downsizing so drastically? It seems like nearly by half. What's the deal with that?
37.5% exactly, but just to put it out there. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm happy to be honest. I can't be like, oh, you know, no specific reason, or it's just this reason. Like, there's a lot to it, that there really is. Like, you know, to all the people that think we make a fortune, which again, there would be nothing wrong with that if we did, as you know, we've spoken about before. But yeah, we do not make a fortune. Like, so many years we break even, so many years we make quite a bit of money that, you know, pays for everything, wages, and goes back into the next year. Some years we lose hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds. Like, the amount of money that, you know, most people in business, certainly smaller businesses would never have a loss from and would never recover from. So it's such a, when you're in these high numbers, which camp out, you know, costs anywhere between 1.5 and 2 million pounds to put on each year. When you're in them high numbers, the risk of working all year and killing yourself all year to do it, to completely break even, or worse, the years where that happens and you lose a hell of a lot of money, which you have to hope that you have that money saved from previous years to even pay it off, otherwise the event would have to be cancelled. And so, yeah, the main reason is it is just so volatile, and we've worked out that, and originally we were even thinking of going smaller, like to like 5,000 or 6,000, which would have been half. But then we kind of like found the right amount. And by the way, just to be super clear, it is 7.5. But if the demand is like still really big, I'm not going to say that we won't go up to 8,000. Like, I saw a comment of someone saying like, oh, this is just a marketing ploy. They're going to say it's 7.5 and then it's still going to be 12. Like, absolutely not. Nor is it even going to be 10. But if we decide to, and we're in a healthy space and the amount of work we've got to do isn't too hard, we might put another 500 ticket sales on. It's certainly not going to be more than 8,000, you know, but 7.5 is what we're going for. That's what all the infrastructure and the planning is going for. And we've worked out that we're in a much better sustainable position, because if we have another year when we make a big loss, that's the end of Camp Out. Like, unless some vegan millionaire wants to come and bail us out, which you can't always bank on, that would be the end. Like, this year alone, I think it's 50 UK festivals that have been going for like 3 years, or some like 10 or 20 years, have gone under and are never coming back. It's been the biggest loss for UK events ever. And so we don't want that to happen. It is disappointing that it's going to be 7.5. I think there's also huge benefits to it being 7.5, like a smaller kind of, you know, more intimate vibe like it used to be back in the day. There was so much magic in them original events, but we're not doing it for that reason. If your issue is like, oh, the event is so amazing, like, why is there going to be less people? Well, then I would hope that you would think that the sustainability and the future of vegan Camp Out is even more important, because we need this event, right? So yeah, that's the main thing. It's in a safer place at that level that is nowhere near the risk that we have to deal with every day. Like, every day we have to check ticket sales, and it's like, okay, right now we're on for a loss. Like, this is looking pretty shit. Other days it's like, oh, okay, cool. Maybe we're going to make some money this year. And it's that constant like fear, anxiety all the time that people just don't have to deal with if they're not in the festival world.
Well, for anyone who's confused by this, why would having a bigger venue with more tickets, why would that be scarier to do? Because that means more sales and more money than a smaller venue with fewer tickets. Because some people might be confused by what you've said there and go, well, hold on, next year then if you downsize, you're not going to make as much money. So that's more of a risk.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily work like that at all. Like, logic would say it does, but it doesn't always. And the fact is, we've done the modules. Obviously, we had the module for this year. You know, obviously, I'm not going to go into specifics, but we know, you know, what we made. And for sure, like, we didn't lose money. We didn't break even. Certainly didn't make a lot of money, but we made some money, which is great. And we've done the module for next year on this platform, because it's not just the downsizing. It is also the venue we're at and certain things. But festivals very much work in brackets. And like, whilst if you have an event and you've hired a pub or something and your costs are very low, then obviously 100 people turning up to that gig versus one is going to have a better profit. But with events, and what you have to have in place when you go to certain brackets is like astronomically higher, that for many events, and many events are doing this, many events are downsizing for the exact same reason. So just to be clear, it's like, we would probably make, and still it's not exact, but we would probably make more money if we were hitting 14 or 15,000 at Bicester, yes, but we have a much higher profit margin on next year's module at 7.5 than we do currently at like the 12 to 13 mark at Bicester. So such small numbers can make a massive difference, even though it doesn't sound like they're big differences.
So it can be all so for example, the venue cost itself, and then factoring in stuff like the facilities to people ratio and how many tickets, full price you get early and stuff. It's basically a bunch of things that you need to factor in, and it's all little margins, and the size and the number of tickets doesn't necessarily then just mean, oh, more tickets equals more profits. There's loads of other things that you have to take into account, basically.
Exactly. More tickets equals more revenue. It always will, but it absolutely does not necessarily mean more profit. If we could get to like a 15,000 person festival, it's not like we haven't tried. You know what I mean? It's like we've tried for the last few years to sell as many tickets as we can, and we have, like, it's been so painful to try and get them higher numbers, and then you don't enjoy your job. And if you don't enjoy your job, you don't want to do it for much longer as well. Like, having 7.5 and knowing that we have that audience of 7.5, like, we've already sold like 2,500 tickets, which is amazing. Like, and people are saying, oh, like, what if we don't get to have tickets? Well, we're nowhere close to selling out. And I imagine even if we did sell out, it would not be until next year. So you still have plenty of time to get your tickets, and we're still going to have payment plan tickets launch in a few weeks. So there's going to be loads. But yeah, like, God, a festival's dream is to sell out. Like the biggest stress of a festival is making sure you sell enough tickets to break even and then hopefully actually make a profit, because why else is anyone else in, why are you in business if it's not to make a profit? No one wants to work for free, right? And so if we can get to a position whereby February or March we've sold out, that would be amazing, because then we can actually put our time into like making the event as good as we can, rather than even the last 4 weeks before the event still like pushing promo. Like it's a lot harder than people might think on the outside than it is, and it takes a massive toll on your mental health, especially when you've like worked for 3 years and then you lose everything you've worked for on 1 year's event, which essentially means you worked for 4 years without any pay. Like, festival industry is like fucking tough. Like, I read an article by the Guardian earlier that interviewed, I think, the owner of Burning Man Festival and Parklife, and the top line was like how being a festival organizer made me throw up every single day without fail. Now, that's not me, but I certainly relate to the anxiety of what that life is like.
Yeah, it seems an extremely stressful thing to have to do for anyone who wants to kind of, think that it's some kind of cushy job. It definitely doesn't seem like it. Now, then what about the date change? Some people have said something about why the fairly drastic date change last weekend in August. And I don't have kids, so I don't understand. I can't remember what term times are like anymore or anything. And I forgot what they were from when I was back at school. So I think something to do with kids' term times as well. And
it's just Scotland that affects, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't necessarily a conscious choice, as it was that was the only weekend we could do because of other events that are going to be at that venue on the time we wanted. Like, we did originally want the last weekend of July. That was what was going to be, that happened. But yes, someone else got in there first, and fair enough, we hadn't sorted our contract and all the rest yet. So yeah, that was the only weekend we had left. And yeah, we only found one other venue and I say the entire of the country. We never go far south. We never go far north. It's always Midlands, slightly above Midlands, slightly below Midlands. We don't want to be more north than like Rotherham. What's the other northern place? I forget now. And we don't want to be more south than like Cambridge, Milton Keynes type thing. So it's always within that circle. And yeah, we only had one other venue that was possible. They did have the weekend we wanted, but like, yeah, it was such an easy decision. Like, it would have been such a worse event being there, and we still would have risked potentially having to move again in a few years, or pissing off the local neighbours with noise and then being kicked out. So yeah, this is like the safest decision for Camp Out. I would have preferred to keep it the last weekend of July, but I'm fine with the last weekend of August too. What maybe a lot of people don't realise is the last weekend of August is the weekend that more campouts have happened on than any other weekend. That was our weekend for 2018, 2019, and 2021. So it worked back then. Yeah. The only people it affects is Scottish families. But even then, they can still come. It would just mean coming on the Friday after school and leaving late Sunday night, a long drive home before they go to school on the Monday. And so, yeah, there was a few Scottish families that come, but I understand for the most part, it doesn't suit them, but it is what it is. One weekend is always going to affect certain people, certain demographics. So yeah.
And and by the way, to anyone in the audience asking questions and stuff, thank you for the super chats that have come in so far. They will be read out towards the end of the stream. And if people want to ask questions towards the end of the stream as well, we'll answer those. But I'm just going to put some questions anyway still to Jordan that we've heard already. So that I've heard already in the build up to the stream. So one of the, I guess, main complaints as well that I've been hearing going around on social media, and I think you guys addressed this actually the other day, but just to reiterate, ties to agricultural land and stuff with this venue coming up. So apparently, I've heard stuff like there's sheep grazing on the land, and something to do with it's in the corner of a chicken farming field or something like that. Like, are these rumors true? And like, how do you address that kind of stuff that's going on?
Yeah, so it's certainly not in the corner of a chicken farm. Like anything, when people find something out and then it gets spread, and then it's like, Chinese whispers, not to use a racist term, but yeah, definitely not in the corner of a chicken farm. There's like, yeah, you said about sheep grazing. Every single area of land in the entire country gets used for sheep grazing, and me and you are very ethical vegans, and at the absolute bottom of that list is sheep eating grass. Like, they're not harmed for that in any way. Obviously, sheep need to eat, and so all land has sheep graze on the land because it works for both parties. Obviously, the sheep need to eat, and it also keeps the grass down. There's zero abuse in that whatsoever, and that is completely unavoidable. But when it comes to the thing you said about, corner of the chicken farm, completely untrue. Basically, there are people who are involved with the venue, the owners that have other businesses in, animal farming. That is the case of basically every venue I've ever visited. The main thing for us was that no animal abuse activities happened on the land, farming, hunting, shooting, and the like. So, yeah, for people saying it's in the corner of the chicken farm, that's a complete untrue thing. I think the nearest chicken farm is several miles away from the site. They're completely separate things. This site is nothing more than a festival site. It gets used for festivals much bigger than ours, much louder, later, younger demographics than us. And the people that we have hired this land from, I know, vegetarian, but the point is of, hunting, farming, shooting, the people that we have hired this land from has been the owner, the person we do all this with, and lease the land from him. He has been like a lifelong vegetarian, I think, since like 1988 or something. And, it is, massively anti-hunt, anti-shoot and all the rest. So, yeah, that's just not true. We can talk about the issues of venues and who that owned by. Like, people don't know that Bicester Heritage is also owned by a sheep farmer, and that's the venue that I've seen comments today being like, why did they have to move from Bicester? Like, everything was perfect there. It's like, well, Bicester and this venue are identical in the sense of, obviously this venue is nicer and is better for the festival, but in terms of like ethical issues, this festival and this venue and Bicester are identical. That in terms of who actually owns that land, there are connections to them and, farming. But in terms of what happens on the land, there is no like shooting, there is no farming, there is no hunting. It's just a piece of space that's used for festivals, weddings, sporting events and the like. So, yeah.
Yeah. So with the one that's just been at Bicester then, because I heard you say for the Bicester one, I remember you saying that you'd found like absolutely no ties, whatever, to anything to do with agriculture or something like that. But it was just that the bloke who owned it, like, is a sheep farmer, but nothing. There was but the land on Bicester itself wasn't used for any agricultural activities or anything like that.
Exactly. Like, God, if and I do agree, actually, like, just to clarify that, ties, I think, can include anything, but then by that logic, there is no site in the entirety of the UK that has zero ties. As in, not someone's like sanctuary, not someone's like bit of land that they've bought to host a little village fair. Like, I'm talking festival sites. There wouldn't be any such thing. So maybe me using the word ties was the wrong word, but what I was on about is stuff that happens on the land. It's completely unavoidable with what different owners, because all these sites have like multiple owners, right? It's never usually one person. And so these sites are in areas that are outdoorsy. What happens in outdoorsy? It's all farm, it's all agricultural, it's all countryside stuff. So until a vegan buys a large amount of land and then turns it into a site that's appropriate for festivals, then we're just not going to have that. We can only do the best in what we have. And, I've seen these people actually say many times when people have said, so if there is no land that Vegan Camp Out can be at, what should they do? And when they're eventually pushed, they'll move the goalpost. But once they eventually get to that point, they always say, well, then Vegan Camp Out shouldn't happen. And in my opinion, that's such an anti-vegan position, because what they're saying is that land still exists. it will still be used for, and like I say, this isn't the case at our venue, but it is the case with most venues. So all these venues exist, and they're used for hunting, they're used for shooting, or because a lot of venues, like I've been to well over 200 venues around the UK, I would say that 20% of them are a beef farm or a dairy farm, and that happens on site. So that is a very popular thing as well. So
yeah,
saying that should still stay, but that vegan events, until we can have someone that has that land, should not exist. And that is the same logic as saying until all landlords are vegan, vegan business, vegan restaurants shouldn't rent from non-vegan landlords. Like, it would be ridiculous. How can we wait for the world to go vegan unless we're trying to get it to go vegan? And if we're trying to get it to go vegan, that means working, unfortunately, with people that are involved in these spaces.
Yeah, look, we live in a non-vegan world and a non-vegan country, and just any event space that's used for some kind of vegan activity, unless it's like a small kind of sanctuary-owned bit of land, unfortunately, you know, the case is it is just going to have ties in some way to whatever non-vegan kind of entity in some kind of way. But it's the same even when we go buying stuff at the supermarket, right? Or even if we buy, you know, an Outpro like plant milk or something. Well, Outpro is owned by dairy giant Danone. If you go to do any kind of, if you go shopping in any way, really, you're ultimately going to be funding or using a non-vegan kind of space. So it's just a practically.
Sorry to put you off. I was just going to say, what's funny on that is like just because you said about food, because I like to play devil's advocate and show why the logic still doesn't make sense. Like the amount of people that say, yeah, but we need to eat as vegans. Absolutely. Okay, so we need to eat our calorie deficient diet. But what we don't need to do is buy, you know, pots and pots of ice cream and snacks. But even more than food, what we don't need to do is go to the cinema, go to music festivals, go to weddings, go to, you know, we certainly don't need to go to vegan restaurants, because that's quite a, you know, like well-off thing, right? You can go to the supermarket and just buy your cheap things. So all of these things that vegans choose to do that are very much like first world privileges, you know, fancy restaurants, cinemas, you know, music festivals and all the rest, all of them places either directly or indirectly fund non-vegan activities. And I don't just mean non-vegan as in morally neutral activities that don't have anything to do with anything. I mean non-vegan activities like, you know, funding the meat industry, funding the dairy industry, funding hunting, farming, all of these things. So yeah, we need to eat, but almost all vegans I know, and anyone on this live stream, goes to weddings, goes to music festivals, goes to vegan restaurants, goes to the cinema, and therefore also going to Vegan Camp Out, Veg Fest, Vegan Dale, any of the other amazing vegan events around the world. They're all okay to go to as well.
And you know, Christspiracy will hopefully be hitting the cinemas soon, and we'll be advocating that everyone goes to watch Christspiracy in the non-vegan owned cinemas that sells hot dogs and stuff. I mean, it already was in the cinemas and we went. I'm hoping it goes out in the cinemas again.
How many meat eaters are going to go and see Christspiracy and get a hot dog or get a buttered popcorn to watch with their movie? So the argument would be, well, by promoting Christspiracy in cinemas, we're increasing the sales of non-vegan products. And it's like, well, yeah, like, sure, but the hope is that they watch Christspiracy and maybe rethink them issues. Like,
yeah, and in any case, I don't think it would even lead to some kind of net increase in anyway. But okay, so the next thing as well, I've heard about the next year's venue that people have had a few concerns about, the noise of the DJ sets and stuff that's going to be in the woodland. How do you address the complaints that there's been about kind of like the wildlife and stuff, and that it's anti-vegan to have all this music pumping out loud and stuff like in the woods with all the animals and stuff around?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, I would have to start off by saying if us having a festival and having DJ sets where there's woodland is not vegan, well, then I would want to hope that the same people never ever go to any other music festival. But most vegans do. You know, I think it's like 40 to 50% of people in the UK have been to a festival in the last 3 years, so it's an awful lot. But, you know, I'm not just doing whataboutism. Like on this topic, I mean, Newark Showground was also surrounded by woodland that would have had animals in. Like, it depends how specific you want to be. Like, are they going to make a claim that, oh, this woodland has more animals? It's like, okay, maybe it does. From what I know, it's mostly I can't say the word uninhabited on what we've been told. But yeah, people have pointed out that doesn't mean there's not still going to be some animals in there. But we have spoken even in the last few days to like people who this is their expert field, because it's not mine, and I'll never claim to be an expert on things that I don't know about. I'm very big on only speaking about things I know about. And we've spoken to so many people who are like wildlife experts and all the rest. And they've actually said it's a massive myth and that a lot of science has been done on this topic. A lot of people think that the wildlife just stay there and they're frightened and they're disturbed by all this noise. And that isn't the case. Studies have been done into like population and cameras and like monitoring animal activity. And what happens in almost all cases in the studies they've done, that is whenever a large amount of people come onto site, the animals move away temporarily and come back once they feel it's safe. So again, sure, you could say, oh, well, isn't it a shame that they have to move? But that happens wherever there's a large amount of people, almost anywhere. Like, you know, driving your cars late at night, and sure, okay, we have to drive, but you don't have to drive to go and see a friend or have to drive to go to a party. Like we just have to accept that in this world, us driving, us existing, us going to supermarkets, us going to festivals, yeah, it is, you know, them sites by themselves will have demolished wildlife originally. Our houses demolished wildlife originally, and that didn't just make the animals like go away temporarily for a few days and come back either. It destroyed habitats, it destroyed populations, and unfortunately that is just, you know, part and parcel of being a human in the UK. We can minimize it, and sure, absolutely, like if your position is you want to create that absolute least harm possible, and therefore never go to where there's large crowds, never go to woodland areas where you're not going to be super quiet, never go to festivals, never go to vegan camp out, never go to any establishment that's owned by non-vegans. I massively respect that, but I've never met a vegan that is that. But if you are that, like, absolutely no judgment. Like, that's cool. I don't think it's a practical way necessarily for everyone to live. And I don't think you should necessarily be saying to the 99.9% of vegans that don't live that way that they're immoral if they don't. Because how are we going to create more vegans if we say, okay, you have to be vegan, but also you can't go to the cinema, you can't go to the restaurant, can't go to festivals, can't go anywhere near woodland, you can't drive unless it's absolutely necessary for your like survival. I just don't think it's practical. But yeah, like I say, from the studies that have been done, they're not like spooked and living in fear. They move around. And let's not forget that like Bicester is surrounded by woodland, so it would be the same when 10,000 people come onto site, pump in a lot of music. We had 8 stages. They're going to move away because they're going to fear that could be a threat. And then once everyone's gone, they're going to return back. You know, yeah, it's still not necessarily the nicest thing, but I wouldn't call it like abusive than animals. Like if us as humans heard a load of noise over in an area, we're going to move away until we know it's safe to go back to that area. It's just, you know, relocation. It's not this like forced, you know, encroaching of their space. And because
they temporarily migrate, basically.
Exactly. And because it's a festival site, they're going to be very used to that. They probably already have migrated because this site is so often used for festivals that are a lot louder and later and more people than us. So yeah.
Yeah, it's now ultimately that Bygrave Woods is the name of the event space. It's ultimately a human event space now that humans have built over in a way and used for festivals. It's not like us going there is kind of adding to anything, or, you know, there was nothing there before, no human intervention there before, and then boom, this vegan festival comes there and like disrupts all the wildlife. It is just now a space used for human events, and that's just one of those things about living in a world where we are ultimately just surrounded by wildlife, and we are building and stuff has just, unfortunately, just by us existing, just impacted them. What about then some people are thinking right now, they're probably thinking, all right, I get the point now about the squirrels and stuff with the music, but what about me, Jordan? Like you've got these loud music sets and stuff playing at night here. It's a smaller venue. What's going to be the deal then with the quiet camping section? How am I going to get to sleep at night? I'm not much of a partier. I'm just going there for the talks and stuff. And I'm hearing now you've got this late music license. There's going to be, you know, massive tunes pumping until whatever it is o'clock in the morning. How am I going to get to sleep? So how's that going to work?
Yeah, I mean, for one, when you go to festivals, there are such things as earplugs and sleep masks, right? Like you can still sleep, but it's not like tents are going to be near these areas. Obviously, it's going to be designed in a way where the campsites are the furthest away. Quiet camping is even further than that. Might you still hear music? Like it's not like it's going to go. The venue's license goes until like 6 a.m. We're not going to go anywhere near as late as that. I think we've actually decided 1:30, which actually is a really important point to make, because Newark, we went until 2 a.m. every single night. So we're actually going to end earlier than we used to be at Newark. And, there was no issues at Newark. Like, God, we would even see families with young children still partying until 2 a.m. And I was always shocked at that. And they were like, yeah, it's our festival as well. Like, what other festival would you get to take your kids to the after party? So many people get involved, but those who didn't want to be around that and they were camping or in the family area or in the quiet area, it's never that loud. It's not like almost every festival in the country where the fairground and the stages are just pumping until 4 a.m. and you're trying to go to sleep and your whole tent is just shaking. And even then, you can still wear an eye mask and earplugs, and it just about does. But yeah, we're only going to go until about 1:30. So only one stage that's going to go until 1:30. It's not multiple areas. The fact that it's in the woodland for the most part will contain quite a bit of the noise. It's not like an open air type thing. And the sound of direction is going to be facing the complete opposite way to where all of the campsites are. So yeah, it's not going to be much of an issue, except from the fact, we're going an hour and a half later than we are at Bicester. But the sound is going to be facing in a direction opposite to the campsite. And if you do want to sleep before 1:30, then we highly recommend earplugs and a little sleep mask, and you'll be fine. You're never going to get your quality 8.5 hours sleep at just kind of the reality of the situation.
And then what about things like, are there any headline acts, new speakers, or anything you can announce for next year? I know you guys like to mix it up a lot and you like to have, a different speaker list each year. Have you got any in the pipeline you can kind of tease us about for next year? Any maybe big names or new names, or is it all a bit cloak and dagger at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, again, the honest answer is no one is confirmed. That doesn't mean we haven't made lists of people we would like to get. We always, I say we, like, but the bookings is like the main thing I'm still very much involved with in terms of just the overall general overlook of everything else as well. But, I'm the one with kind of like the contacts now and good relationships with everyone on our lineup, and I'm the one that speaks to the agents and all the rest. So every year I make a list and it's like, okay, cool, who do we want back from like 2 years ago? But more importantly, who do we want to try and get that's never been at camp out before? Either because we've never been able to get them, or there's someone that's like recently gone vegan, like Benedict Cumberbatch and Cillian Murphy and people like him. They'd be great to get over the next few years. And then there's still so many big names that we've never been able to get. That's why this year was cool with getting like Kate Nash and Michael Greger. They're two people that people have requested very heavily started. There's no one I can say. I would, I don't think it would be a big surprise to say some of the people that were there in 2023 will certainly be making a return appearance for 2025. But for the most part, we always want to try and get as many new names as we can. This year, we didn't have all that many new names from people that we had in 2022, not least because obviously, unfortunately, Benjamin Zephaniah died and he hadn't been since 2021. Obviously, Lee Mack was a big name, but he had to pull out. So we would have had two more names that either hadn't ever been there or hadn't been there in a long time. But next year we definitely want to work on even more so getting as many brand new vegan camp out names. Because the more people we can get, the more people add to our pot, the more people, like new fans of them people are gonna come. And we never want to be a festival that like has the same lineup. Like, it's funny, there's just as many people that say, oh, it's always the new names, as the people who every year say like who will be saying for next year, why isn't Ed there? Why isn't like this person there? It's like, because they were there last year. Like, if we had the same people there every year, even more people would be annoyed that the lineup was similar. So we're actually like one of the only festivals in the UK that makes sure to have a completely different lineup the year before, I saw a festival in Canada did that I used to go to, and I was like, yeah, we should do that, just so like we're not a festival that has the same person for 3 years in a row, and it also adds like a bit more of a challenge to the booking process as well, to have like a completely fresh lineup.
Was it the case that Benjamin Zephaniah was gonna perform at this year's camp out? Just been?
Yeah. He performed in 2021, and he was going to be performing again. We did ask him if he wanted to do a talk, but you know, there's always 100 reasons people don't want to do a certain thing at a certain time. So yeah, he preferred to do another music set. So he was going to be one of the other music headliners. Maccabee was going to be like co-headliner under him. So then, obviously, when he sadly passed, Maccabee became the headliner for that night. So yeah.
Yeah, that is very sad for anyone who remembers Benjamin Zephaniah. I was definitely looking forward to seeing him. Is there anything else you want to kind of announce about next year's event or clear up before we move on to the next section of the stream, Jordan? Or have you kind of said everything you'd like about that?
No, that's everything really, yeah.
Awesome. One actual quick question I think I'll have actually about it, because it's a smaller venue, will it still have all the stuff that it had from this year's camp out, like mind and body, tent, education, music stage, main stage? You're going to be able to squeeze that all into that?
Yeah, because obviously, like with the smaller capacity, the stages will be slightly smaller as well. So yeah, you know, it's all ratio. Everything we have will still be there. Obviously, you know, there'll just be some of the stages will be a bit less small because there won't be as many people. So like, yeah, it's the same venue, you know, just like, as I say, 35-ish% shrinkage of everything. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll come on to the Q&A towards the end of the stream, guys. I've just got some miscellaneous kind of questions to ask Jordan first that relate neither specifically to the last or next year's camp out, and then we'll get the Q&A in. So as I say, super chats will get a guaranteed answer, and then we'll try and answer as many questions as we can in the live chat coming up. So one of the questions a lot of people have been asking is, will camp out be coming to the US? A lot of Americans I see coming in every year. Oh, why can't you bring this to the US? And I wish I could afford this. I wish I could go. So are there any plans for a US vegan camp out?
Yeah, I mean, there's always plans. We are in talks with a company. Obviously, it's a massive thing that takes a long time. So, yeah, we were hoping to have that launch for this year. At this rate, you know, I don't even want to say definitely next year, depending on when we can get it sorted for, and whether we do get it sorted, it could easily be 2026. So, yeah, it is an ongoing conversation. It has so many factors in terms of our time, where it will be located, who we would do it with, because we would do it with another company. So yeah, there are plans. I just can't say when and if it will definitely happen, but that is the plan.
Plans in the pipeline. And you had the Australian vegan camp out last year. Is that returning this year, next year?
Yeah, I think that's on hiatus for the most part. Like it's not like it's been cancelled. The people running it just don't really have any plans to do it right now. You know, kind of like, as I've said in this chat, like putting on an event is a massive thing. It's a massive commitment. You know, it's hard because it's the kind of thing you need to have no job in order to do, because it takes so much work. But then you're not going to want to quit your job to work on an event that might not make money like for a few years, you know, because most festivals take many years until you can even get into profit. So yeah, you know, we did it with people we know and friends, but really, I guess these things need to be done. That's why we're in these chats with American. You've got to do it with like an events company that can take on that stress, has already got the staff, doesn't need to quit the job to do it, and has the expertise and the knowledge and the years experience of event management, because it's a massive thing. You know, that's why people go to university. I didn't, you know, I learned very much from the bottom up, but you know, that's why people go to university, to do event management, because it's a massive thing to do.
And then the last question I have, just before we move on to the Q&A, is just about the age of the audience. I've heard concerns that maybe that from some of the older campers that maybe they feel the camp out is aimed too much at younger generations. How do you respond to that?
Is that just in general or more for next year?
I think I've heard it in general about this year and next year. They've said it maybe about this year's one that's just been because it was quite maybe young kind of music-y, apart from maybe the 70s, 80s night. And then the next year as well, just the idea of like, you know, the DJ sets in the woods and more of that party festival vibe. And some of the older folks are maybe saying that there needs to be some activities or music maybe aimed at the older. I can't speak for them. I don't know exactly what it is that they want. But have you heard that kind of feedback? And is there anything that the camp out's doing to kind of balance it out? For me, I think the camp out is aimed at everyone. I think everyone, regardless of age, has been catered to very, very well. Ultimately, though, it is a festival, so festivals just naturally attract a younger audience, and live music tends to attract a younger audience. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a battle, isn't it? Because if anything, I hear so many people saying like how old the vegan camp out audience is, because our biggest audience, and obviously this isn't old, but you know what I mean, but our biggest audience is like, I think 35 to 45, which is very old for a festival audience. Like, as you say, festival audiences are very skewed, very young. So we do have a much older audience. And yeah, we, as you said, we actually do have so many 50s, 60s, 70s, even 80s come. You know, I don't know how much we could necessarily do for them people, especially because, yeah, definitely like the 70s and 80s plus is such a small percentages of our attendees. It's not like it would be worth having like a classical music stage or anything like that. But like, you know, that said,
could be, you never know. To check the audience demographics, maybe put a poll out there. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. If enough people wanted it, maybe for sure. But yeah, like, yeah, I know you said about the music genres, but we have had jazz, and we do have a lot of reggae, and we do have, you know, folk music, and, you know, obviously that's music that can be appreciated by everyone, and actually skews much older than it does younger. But yeah, more in terms of like the things for next year, like I really want to get across the point. I think it's because of the video we put out, but we didn't make that video. Like the venue sent us that video, and I was like, oh, we might as well post it because it really shows like how nice and the aesthetics of the of the venue. But it's not turning into some like party festival. It's going to be the exact same festival, except from and not even the parties. Like the after parties are still going to be in the main stage, like the main after party each night. But just in terms of the DJ sets that were in the Slipshod area this year, that's all that's going to be in the woods. It's like a tiny little area that holds like 1,000 people. So yeah, except from that they're going to be in the woods, and they're going to be a bit louder because of less restrictions, and be able to go until 1:30 instead of 12. Everything else still stays the same. And actually on top of that, not that it's old music related, the other woodland area we have is where all of the picnic benches are going to go. And so we're going to have a really beautiful, like, is serene the word? I don't always know words. Serene.
I like that word.
Yeah. A serene, beautiful area for everyone to eat, which is going to be right near the food vendors. So that's all going to be in the woods as well. And the hemp redemption stage is also going to be in there, not too far from the food. So there's always going to be like nice kind of chill, you know, tame music playing. So yeah, you know, you've got that party area, but it's not a big area anyway. And so that's only going to cater for the younger kind of 16 to 30, obviously, you know, mid 30s still. I don't want to exclude them. And even then, you know, there's plenty of 40s and 50-year-olds that love to party. I don't want to make it seem like it's only young people, but, you know, for the most part, it's going to be the 16 to mid 30s that are going to go to them DJ sets in the woods. Everything else is going to be pretty similar, except from, yeah, we're going to have the picnic benches and some art and the hemp redemption stage in a different area of the woods as well. So yeah.
Awesome. Right. I think it's time for the Q&A, Jordan. Are you ready for some Q&A?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for watching so far. We will now answer any questions you want coming in. So let's have a look at the super chats first, and then keep the comments coming in the live chats, guys, and we will have a look at those. Thomas H, thank you for your donation. He says it was great to see international sign language. Is that different from BSL? Is there BSL and ISL or something like that? So yeah, was that a new thing for this festival, or?
I think they may have done it before, but yeah, someone did mention to me that someone was going to be doing some international sign language, because yeah, I guess it's like a universal international one that other people that aren't English speaking can all understand. So yeah, that's cool for like you said, the potentially larger amount of non-Brits that attended this year.
Awesome. And then the other super chat that I've got is from Thomas Clique. We've already addressed this, but just for anyone who's missed it, just give maybe a very brief answer to this, Jordan, because we already did go over this in the live stream. But Thomas Clique says, thank you for your donation, by the way, Thomas. Why is the festival being reduced to 7,500 people?
Yeah, if you can scroll back and watch where I give like a longer answer to that, but the quick answer is it's a more sustainable festival. It means we can carry on and not risk being taken out in such a volatile festival and events economy right now. So yeah, that's the answer.
Cool. Awesome. All right, let me try and get in some new comments. Ajagur says, not a question, but I just wanted to give a massive props to the Access team. They were absolutely great and couldn't fault them in the slightest. It made me and my partner actually want to come next year.
Yeah, nice. I've seen loads of people give a shout out to them. So give a shout out to Elle and her boyfriend, who did an amazing job this year. Like last year, you know, our biggest issue was probably the access area. It just didn't have the organization it needed, and it kind of went to shit on the day. Things that were meant to happen just didn't happen, and then we kind of just had to make do with what we had. And Elle kind of saved the day last year and tried to sort out a lot of the issues that were happening, and could obviously only do as much as she could within the situation. So because of that, we got her properly involved this year, and she's done an amazing job. And almost everyone I've seen has said what a vast improvement that was on last year. So yeah, shout out to Elle.
Epic. Plant Powered Dad says, can we get Sweet Goose and Barbara Helen on the music stage next year? They pulled good crowds at Hemp Redemption and received fantastic feedback.
Yeah, for sure. I've actually forgot what our email is right now for music, just because I think we make a new one every year. We're not doing anything with music applications for now. We're not doing anything for 2025 for now, except these pre-sale tickets that are on sale. We're still very much finalizing this year, and then I get to actually have a 4-week break before kind of restarting in September, getting ready for like our announcement in November. And even that won't be like the individual music lineup. That will just be like kind of all the big main stage and music headliner names. But yeah, you know, remind us when we get around to sorting that, probably more around January time. So yeah.
Holly HS says, I'd love more consideration for neurodivergent people. It was very difficult to cope with all the noise and not having a quiet place to go calm down.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be great to do that. I'm autistic myself. I'm pretty sure that classes as neurodivergent, right, George?
It is neurodivergent to be autistic,
yeah. Yeah, so, you know, my brother is like pretty, you know, he's a lot more autistic than I am, and it's more severe. So yeah, it is something that's like very close to home. Yeah, I'll have a think about what we can do. I mean, again, I think the quiet area again wasn't properly like signposted and fenced this year. So I think that being done better next year will create a better vibe for those that want to be in a quiet area, whether that's just because they don't like noise or they are neurodivergent, like you say. But also, yeah, like I said before, the areas of the site that are the woodland areas that aren't for the DJ sets, they will be, you know, quite kind of like peaceful and quiet. So yeah, that might be an area as well. But maybe we can look at like having, you know, again, it's all about demand. You know, obviously everyone wants everything that would be great for them. It needs to work, you know, practically, financially, all the rest to have it. But yeah, if there's enough people that want it, in the same way we have the speed dating stuff. Maybe we could have like a session at the Mind and Body stage for like, I'll even put that in my notes now so I don't forget. Potential session. So yeah, we'll take it on board. If we can do something, would be good.
Awesome. All right, another super chat here from Thomas H. Thank you, Thomas H. He asks, are you getting rid of theme park rides?
Yeah, so yeah, I don't know is the honest answer. There is, honestly, reading through all the comments, there is just as many people that say get rid of them as there are people saying, oh no, they were amazing and it was one of my funnest things of the weekend. What I think we definitely will do, more definitely 100%, is if we do have rides, they're going to be like much quieter rides that aren't going to be pumping music all weekend. Maybe we'll look at getting, like, at the very least, like a wheel or something, because that's good. A, because it doesn't have loud music, and B, it'll be great for people to go on and get like photos of the whole site because it's high up. So yeah, I don't want to say 100% that we're not going to have them, or changes and considerations going to be made to them. Absolutely, without fail. It might be that we have one ride, you know, much further away from the stages, so there can't be any sound clash, and maybe like a big wheel and something like that.
Awesome. Rachel Pearson asks, is Lee Mack booked for next year?
Yeah, so like I say, no one is officially booked for next year. Lee Mack was going to do next year when it was still the same date. We will need to speak to his team now. This has been sorted, because it's only been sorted within the last few weeks that we're definitely going to be at this venue, you know, agreements and dates and all the rest. So yeah, we're starting from scratch now, essentially, with seeing who's available, who can do that date. It's definitely our plan to get Lee Mack back after he had to unfortunately drop out this year. Whether that will be next year or a future year, I can't say for sure until we hear back from his people. So yeah.
Awesome. Dave says, get Joe Biden. Jordan, any plans for Joe Biden next year to
Is he vegan?
If Biden goes, yeah, well, he's only vegan because he forgot that he ate animal products for breakfast this morning. That's about the most vegan thing about him. All right, what have we got next? I think someone asked something about a weights or something down here. Let me have a look. Who asked the question about weights? I can't find it. Let's have a look. What about a zip line? Dave asks. Because it's in a wooded area, right? So
yeah, I don't know if that will work with how much we've got going on in the wooded areas. I don't know if we can have a zip line through the party area or where people are eating, you know, because like that's another thing someone asked, like when they were speaking about the wildlife, they were like, but if everything's in the woods, is that not going to be like so impactful on wildlife? And we've had to tell people, like, no, like the majority of the site is not wildlife. There's only two very small wooded areas, one which is where we're going to have the DJ sets, one which is where we're going to have picnic benches and a chill music, art, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I don't think a zip line probably would work.
Cool. All right, I found the question I was looking for from Trick You. Jordan, bro, get Jamie and Ramesh for 2025. A weights area would be sick too.
Yeah, both of them people are a very large part of our budget. So I don't know about getting both, but again, certainly the plan to have both back at one point. Yeah, they're both great acts that I'm so happy we've managed to get a camp out, and a weights area would be sick too. Yeah, cool. You know, maybe some of the vegan bodybuilders can do, you know, again, whether every time you add an extra area, it creates clashes, it creates sound clashes, it creates health and safety stuff, obviously extra costs, feeds into the layout, and there's so much. So when we can add things to areas we already have, maybe like a session on weights at Mind and Body, I think that would probably make more sense. So I'll certainly write that down as well.
Awesome. Kevin Newell says, I still have big concerns for wildlife disturbance at the proposed new site. You didn't address it in the issues on wildlife can't and don't temporarily migrate. Please, can we have a talk about this one-to-one?
Yeah, for sure. But from everything we have found out, and we have spoken to many vegan experts in the last few days, sorry, I've got a cold. That is what happens, and studies have been done on this in specifically 2 large events and wildlife, and that the results were found that what we originally thought of scared and trapped wildlife is just not the case, and that they do move away way before noise starts getting made. When they hear a large amount of people come onto an area, they temporarily relocate and return back once they think it's safe. But for sure, send me a message. But like I said, even if it is the case that there are wildlife that don't move and they're scared, it's not like I'm saying, oh, well, tough luck, but like that is festivals. And so, as I keep saying, if you're someone that doesn't want to go to festivals because they play loud noise and that could disturb the local woodland, completely cool. And I respect that. It's not me, it's not any vegan I know, but if that's how you want to live your life in the absolute least harm caused possible, then that's cool. But that applies to every venue we've been at. Stamford Hall, we had music in the woods. Newark Showground is surrounded by woodland. Bicester is surrounded by woodland. So it's not something that's specific to next year's venue. The only way you could avoid that is by being in an indoor venue, but then it's not a camping festival, obviously, or having a completely quiet festival, which, if someone wants to make a completely quiet, low impact, that ties to like the neurodivergent thing as well. That's completely cool, but that's not what we're trying to do with Vegan Camp Out. It's also not a music festival. I think it's a good hybrid of like education and socializing and learning more, and the philosophy of animal rights and veganism, whilst also having music, parties, and all the rest that the festivals have.
Okay. At Car 3 says, could you add more activism-focused events, speakers, trainings, etc.? We need more activists, not just cupcake vegans.
Yeah, I mean, we have an entire stage dedicated to it. There's no benefit in adding a second stage. It would only reduce the amount of people. That it's not like the education stage is so packed that people don't get in and don't get to see the talks. And so by adding another area, all you're doing is halving the attendance of both. So I think that would be a bad thing. And we already cram in as many talks as we possibly can. The education stage has more talks than probably the music stage and main stage combined. So yeah, I'm not going to lie and say, yeah, we're going to add even more areas for activism next year. Like George said earlier, many of the stalls kind of do their own internal events anyway. Like you said, the We the Free area put on a load of like meetups and educational training sessions and things with that. I think there was even like a speaker's corner area of Vegan Camp Out this year. So people do a lot of this stuff themselves, and we welcome that. We want to see as much talk, and because again, it's not like there's one right way of doing activism. Vegans disagree on almost everything. So we want different people talking about different methods, different what they think works, what doesn't work, and people, as long as they're respectful of different areas, seem to like to battle it out. So
yeah, at Car 3, I just want to say my piece on this. This Vegan Camp Out was a heavily activism focused camp out. There was plenty of fun things. There was plenty of cupcakey things there that I was participating in myself. I was lining up to get those delicious vegan donuts, believe me. But wow, it was just, I was activismed out as well. There was so much stuff going on. There was not only at the education stage with the activism talks there, but We the Free were running the stall, the little speaker's corner thing, and there was activism poetry as well, and music, and lots of stuff going on. There was even, I think, I don't know if it went ahead in the end, but there was definitely a plan for the We the Free demo to actually take place in Oxford on the Sunday with the coach, and that they do that at different campouts as well. So yeah, don't worry, very activism focused, and I'm sure next year will be as well. Sarah says, can you please mark the different camping areas more clearly? Solo, general, quiet campers were all mixed up in the end.
Yeah, I think I touched on that earlier. That again, it's a really hard thing to get into. Like, Vista's limitations means that signage, like, we can't have high up signage, and low signage just blows over. And so, like, yeah, without having the really expensive, we had some of that for the arena, like, and it's so expensive, like 30-40K just for like a little bit of fencing. For that's called shield fencing. Without having that at Vista, which would have just been out of our budget, we just had to like mark it as best as we could and mark it on the map. But next year, because of the venue we're at and it doesn't have all the wind and health and safety issues, we'll be able to mark it out properly with the cheap fencing and stick up a sign on wood that says what do you call it? Quiet camping, solo camping. So yeah, that's the plan.
Cool. All right. What's the next comment that we've got here? Chris Hines says, will the small train be at the new venue? Clearly the sickest part of Camp Out.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know is the answer. Maybe the small train doesn't work with having the DJ sets in the woods. You know, you can't really have a train go around that little area because it takes up such a, you know, that's the thing. We had to have all of them cool things, and I'm glad we did, because they were necessary. When you're in an open area, you've got to have like the shipping containers and like you've said, even a little train to like add some quirky stuff to it. And that's the beauty of trees. Like, even when you add a load of things into like an open area, it's still never as good. Having been to many festivals myself, it's never as good or a natural like party setting as being in like woodland kind of area. But yeah, so I don't know, maybe not. Maybe we won't have the small train.
All right, Ben Young asks a nice Swifty question here. The Taylor Swift night has had a great turnout for the past 2 years. Will this be a more permanent after party fixture? I believe it's currently run by fans.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't know if it will become a permanent fixture. I think it's best to just keep it by fans. We're not going to shut it down or say it can't happen. But again, it's just that question of like a new area, a new thing. You know, maybe we could look at adding it to one of our original areas, existing areas. But I think for the most part, it's cool that it's kind of like, you know, because then it's like, who else do we have? Justin Bieber? Do we have one for a big rock band appreciation society? It's like, I like that people kind of have these like splinter groups for their own things and their like little music obsessions, because I certainly have that with my music obsessions. So.
Like Taylor Swift, everyone knows Jordan's a massive Swiftie, everyone. So yeah, you know, I'd be very surprised if Jordan didn't turn it into the biggest feature of Camp Out. We know that's what he most looks forward to. All right, Dave says, what about an MMA ring? Damn, who could we pit against who in there, Jordan? That could be a fun one.
Yeah, again, you know, there's 100 things you can say. You know, could we have LARPing? Could we have MMA ring? Could we have a wrestling ring for those into wrestling? There's loads that could be added. You know, maybe we do a poll and ask people like what the main thing that we don't have that we could have would be out of, you know, yeah, we could ask, but yeah, there's no plans for. And I imagine the health and safety on that kind of stuff is a lot, and something that probably wouldn't be worth me or other people's stress to make happen for now. But I know you said, George, about like a football area, like that could be a thing that isn't quite as like high health and safety and is much easier done. That, well, and I think feel like maybe more football fans than there are. I don't know. MMA is big too, but yeah.
Well, just to clarify, my suggestion wasn't actually specifically for a football area as in playing a football match, because that would include maybe some health and safety. It would just be for a penalty shootout. So it would be risk-free, very static, and the money would be donated to a good cause. So that's something to maybe I can help look into arranging for next year if I can. Bista Litter Pickers I don't know if this is the real them because they've been leaving a lot of comments in the stream, and it would seem strange that they're in here. Bigger bins next year, and thoughts on Bicester litter pickers, our efforts at Festival 23 and 24.
Yeah, yeah. If you're asking for like a thank you, like, yeah, thank you so much for everything you did. We haven't done a post thanking everyone because I just know we would forget someone and then they would be understandably upset. But you're like, yeah, everyone that's involved with the venue, and just as much you guys, if not more, for helping out both years. Bigger bins next year. Yeah, I mean, we spoke about, I think, waste earlier. Bigger bins, but you don't necessarily have to have bigger bins if you've got like a bigger cleaning team. But for sure, whether it's bigger bins, bigger cleaning team, both. Yeah, anything we can do to make sure that the bins aren't quite as overspilling all the time. But yeah, obviously we're not going to be at Bicester next year, so you won't be able to help us. But yeah, thank you so much for your help over the last 2 years.
Awesome. Shannon Jones asks, will the main stages still be under the big tents or in the woodlands?
Big tents.
Cool. All right. Let's have a look. Connor Hughes says, my friend Mark from Amberwood Sanctuary near Bicester would like to do a talk to a larger audience. He has an interesting story and message in regards to sanctuaries and farms.
Yeah, I mean, if he could, if he could email education@vegancampout.co.uk, that is generally how people apply to do a talk on anything to do with animal rights, sanctuaries, different outreach methods. So yeah, that would be the best course of that.
And you know what I can do after this stream, guys, because there's a lot of questions coming in about, can I perform here? Can my friend perform here? I should actually put the emails in the text description to this video. So maybe Jordan could give me those emails after this, and you can email those things. Chase, nice to meet you, by the way, Chase, at the camp out. Chase says, can we get more tents for shade by the food vendors?
Chase is actually at my mum's house now as we speak, I believe.
Oh, really?
If not today, he's going tomorrow, but I think it's today. Yes, the answer to that is already a yes, because like I said, the food picnic eating area is going to be in the woods behind where the food vendors are going to be. So it's going to be perfect shade.
Awesome. All right. Let's have a look. Paul Vegan. Hey, Paul, how you doing? Nice to meet you as well at the camp out. More metal and punk related bands, please.
Yeah, I mean, with the live music lineup, again, like anyone can request what they want, but it needs to be satisfactory. Even on years where we've had like 4 rock bands out of like the 18 to 20 bands we've had performed, you get so many people saying like, oh, there was so much rock music and not enough of this. Like, I'm a massive rock music fan, but I don't just have who I want because I want them there. It needs to be like an equal balance of everyone. But there are going to be specific like punk DJ sets, metal DJ sets, like other subgenres of rock music in the DJ set area. So all different genres and subgenres are going to be covered better this year. But yeah, when it comes to band, yeah. And there aren't that many bands like we could have that would be big draws, or they're like too big, like fucking, Blink-182 or something. Like, obviously Architects would be a great band we would want to play. We've just never been able to have them. It's not like they haven't played because they're a rock band. They would fit right in with Camp Out. And from what we know, rock music is the most liked genre at the event from polls that we've done. But yeah, we've just never been able to get Architects yet.
Awesome. Abby S says, could we get more seating by the food vendors? I struggled to find a bench and broke out in a rash from sitting on the grass.
Yeah, so same answer as before. In a way, that will be the picnic benches in the grass, in the shade in the woods. But yeah, we'll definitely make sure we get a few more picnic benches, just so there's never going to be enough without having so many, which wouldn't fit for everyone who eats to sit, but we will make sure that there's more, so less people have to just sit on the grass and eat.
Awesome. Aaron Browning asks, will there be a 70s and 80s night?
Yeah, the 3 after parties will still be the same genres, because we've polled people enough times now to know that 70s, 80s dance music, whether that's like Ed in a techno set or like a more generalized drum and bass thing, and then rock music are the 3 biggest genres to the camp out audience. So yeah, 70s and 80s is going to stay for now, at least.
Awesome. Abby1 Kenobi asks, how does the terrain at the new site compare to Bista, which was quite flat, for accessibility?
Yeah, I mean, we were speaking to our access person earlier, obviously about like the woods and stuff like that. So we'll have to find out more about that. It may be the case that woodland isn't the best for accessibility, and that again, kind of like the animal situation or venues that are owned by non-vegans and farmers and stuff, it does suck, but it is just the reality of the world. That said, obviously we want to make it as accessible as we can in the areas that will be accessible. All of the campsites and parking and all of that is completely flat. The arena is pretty flat. Bicester is one of the flattest sites you could ever have, which is good for accessibility, but terrible for so many things, and you have to take everything into consideration. So the arena does have, a bit more of shape, a bit more curve to it. I don't think it's anything that like wheelchairs couldn't handle. But yeah, it's not completely flat. But the campsite and the parking is completely flat, and even the woodland is completely flat. It's just whether that is accessible, but we'll find out more about that and get Elle's involvement and recommendations and stuff. Yeah,
guys, we've got about 10 minutes left for Jordan to answer questions, so get your super chats in if you want a guaranteed answer, but we'll try and answer all the other questions that we can. Choppy Socks asks, glamping in accessible area, please.
Yeah, I mean, it's whether the glamping company want to do it. We asked them to do it last year, and not everything works for everyone. This is the thing. Things need to be profitable for people, otherwise it's not worth their time. We did ask. We were told it wouldn't work. We will raise the question again.
Okay. Airsats Mode, who's been quite the critic, I think, so far during the stream, has asked, why did renting a tent a few nights cost exactly the same as buying the tent for new?
Yeah, that just is the thing with pre-pitched camping. You go on any festival site, again, we make sure our prices are on the absolute lowest end of festival prices for everything, pre-pitched camping, glamping, festival tickets, alcohol prices, and we make sure of that. And it's exactly the same with this. It is expensive. You can buy a tent for the same price. It's cheaper to buy a tent. Lots of people like to do it, and I have paid for it many times at other festivals, because you're not just doing it to save money. Like it's more expensive. Like I say, you're doing it for the convenience of not having to bring and carry a tent, find a place to set up the tent, especially if it's raining, at the end of the festival, pack it down, carry it back, especially if you're like traveling far. And obviously it's not just the tent. You get camping chairs, you get beds in there. And on top of that, you're also paying for like that tent company to take them away, transport, cleaning them, storage throughout the year. And you're also paying for your own little camping area that has, your own area with a check-in system, with your own toilets, your own showers. So it's way, way more than just the tent. But for sure, if you're trying to like save on costs, then the cheapest way is absolutely to buy your own tent. If you can afford, I think it works out like 60, 70 quid per person. If you can afford that, then trust me, it's a massive convenience to not. I try and never do that at festivals anymore, because finding a spot and setting up a tent is one of the worst parts for me of a festival. So to have that all done for you and to just check in, here's your tent, beds, camping chairs, it's amazing.
All right. Ajagur asks, do you know if the new area is somewhere that is open to the public, as I'd love to go and scout it before I go, because partner struggles with hills?
No, it's not. It's a private site.
Okay. Last Vegan says bowls of water for dogs, please, too. Good suggestion. Were there any?
Yeah, I don't know about bowls of water. I think they added. I was going to say I thought there was this year, but I think it's that they added some dog bins for like dog litter and stuff. But yeah, we'll look at getting some bowls for sure. I mean, my mum for our dog, obviously, yeah, you don't always want to carry around a bowl and it doesn't fit very well in your pocket. But you can literally get like they're probably like 10, 15 quid off Amazon or buy it from somewhere more ethical. You can buy these things that fold right down. It's like a plastic cup, and it comes out and it keeps water in, so you can keep that in your bag or in your pocket, and it doesn't leak because of the mechanism of the device, so it can contain water. You get it out, open it up, your dog has some water, and it goes back into your bag or pocket. So that's definitely a good thing to have if you're bringing your dog. It's a great thing you can just use when you're going for walks and anywhere with the dog. So.
Okay, let's have a look at some more. Yeah, okay. I think I've answered pretty much all of the questions that I could see. Airsats Mode says, George is only reading out the lame questions. You mean like the ones you've been asking, Airsats Mode? Like the one I flashed up a second ago? Last Vegan says, no, there wasn't bowls of water for dogs. Loads of bad short-nosed dogs owners.
I don't really know what that means, but yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Stoke Pusher, thank you for the super chat. Says, please name venue of the site again, and cold shower rooms as well. Thank you for your donation, Stoke Pusher.
Yeah, site name is Bygrave Woods. I don't know what cold shower rooms are. Is that a kind of shower that's only for cold showers?
I guess that's what they mean, yeah, because I guess that usually the showers at camp out are warm showers.
Yeah, I mean, again, I can't say yes, we're going to add cold shower rooms. Maybe if it's something there's enough demand of, we could certainly look into it. I mean, I saw some people complaining the showers were cold this year anyway, so that's kind of a cold shower when they're not always hot. But yeah, you could always get some cold water and have your own. Again, there's so many things you can have that are like so much cheaper than kind of like setting them up at festivals. Like the same way now you can buy like portable toilets for camping that again are like 15, 20 quid. That's just, my mum had one this year that again, it's just like this little tent that you go inside, you do your stuff, hire away the stuff and pack it down. So then you have your own toilet, your own space. You can also get that for a shower. That's just this tiny little tent and a little hose on it that you have your own shower system, which you could put in cold water, and then you don't have to walk anywhere to get that done. You can do it like the side of your tent. So there's so many things now for camping that can make people's life, with earplugs and eye masks and airbeds that are raised off the ground, so you can have a much more comfortable sleep, because people don't want to have a really bad night's sleep, and that's understandable.
Awesome. Shay Lindor asks, would you consider a songwriting and music therapy session as part of the musical open mic stage? Might know some people who can help.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, I think that would fit well into the Hemp Redemption stage. So I would contact them. It's Mobius Loop that runs it. So anything you want to request to be on that stage, just contact them.
Awesome. About 3 minutes left, guys. So get a super chat in if you definitely want a guaranteed answer to the question. I'll try and speed through the rest of these as I can, but apologies that there's going to be some that I'll miss, I think. David Rams asks, how about rentable hot tubs and cold tubs?
How about no, David? No. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely, it's another thing we've looked at. Some company contacted us last year, didn't work, they couldn't do it in the end or something. But yeah, like having rentable hot tubs and cold tubs would be pretty cool. Yeah, it's something we spoke about a few times. There's just, we keep adding so much each year. It's just, we also don't want it to be too crazy, because again, it would just become unmanageable. But I would like to see hot tubs there, so for sure.
Awesome. Rachel Pearson asks, more water points in the arena would be great, please.
Yeah, that's going to happen for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, I definitely thought that was one thing that could have been, because I noticed that previous campsites that we've been at, those water points like right in the center, they were easily found. But at Bicester, yeah, it's all very much, right in the corner of places, and you had to walk quite a bit of a way, or maybe.
Yeah, we did have them, but yeah, I think like you said, a lot of people didn't find them, so they need to be in prominent places with good signage. Again, it always comes back to signage, and being at this new site means we can just stick things in the ground on sticks or on a Harris fence and not have issues with it blowing away. So yeah.
All right. Louise says, why do you delete comments you disagree with? I haven't deleted even a single comment the entirety of the stream. So maybe stop. Maybe you've just been, your comments might have looked spammy or something like that. And if it's on my other YouTube video as well, YouTube auto deletes comments as well. It's really bad for it. If there's a comment you want to make, just message me. Right. Oh, here's one. Last Vegan says a little vegan shop would be a good idea. What are your thoughts for that, Jordan?
Yeah, we did have one in 2021 and 2022. And then obviously the Vegan Kind went under as a business. But yeah, we do want to have one. We had a camping shop this time that sold like all your camping things, but it would be good to have like a little supermarket like they do at other festivals that sells, snacks and toilet roll and, different things that you might need for the weekend. Obviously, there's loads of vegan shops in the stalls area, but yeah, I imagine maybe you're talking about like camping essentials or things you might need for the weekend, but they were mostly sold by the circular camping guys this year. So yeah, maybe. But then if you need food and stuff, there's just so much food and drink available that we don't necessarily need a little supermarket type thing.
Awesome. And I think this is going to be the last question because we've come up to about 2 hours now. Jack Bauer, thank you for the super chat. Jack Bauer says, wanted to say thanks, Jordan. Without Vegan Camp Out, I would not have vegan friends. Any potential for a Latin dance class at Mind and Body next year?
Yeah, thank you so much. It's always nice seeing comments like that. The amount of thanks we've had over the last few days. I've just got hundreds of messages in my inbox that I haven't even been able to open, never mind reply to. So yeah, it's always so nice and warming to have people that I know it's changed their life in some way or impacted their life for the better. So that's amazing. Again, any request for the Mind and Body stage, if you just want to email them, George just said he'll put all the links to the different areas. So bands and artists and classes can all apply to the relevant email. They do receive them all. That's all sorted by other people. That's nothing to do with me. So yeah.
Awesome. Right. I guess that is the end of the stream then, guys. So thank you so much for joining. And Jordan, thank you obviously for coming on. Really appreciate everyone coming on today and asking all their questions. So yeah, was there anything you wanted to say, Jordan, just before we end the stream at all?
No, obviously if you came this year and you want to come back next year, tickets are now on sale. There's always people that listen to these things that have heard Vegan Camp Out over the last few years and have never got to come. So it'd be great to see you at the event for the first time next year. As I said earlier, there's only 7,500 tickets on sale this year, and we've already sold 2,500, which is just fucking insane. So yeah, if you want to get your tickets, the price will stay the same from now right up until the event. All of the entertainment and the lineup will be announced in November, which is obviously when we'll sell even more tickets at that point. But yeah, head to, we haven't updated it on our website yet, but we've shut down our old ticket system so people can't accidentally buy the wrong year. So yeah, for now, I'm sure George will put the link in the description, but it's Ticket Pulse, because we're going with a different ticket company, ticketpulse.co.uk/VCO25. That's the link to get your tickets. Payment plan tickets will be available in a few weeks, and glamping, pre-pitched, and coach trips are also now all available to book as well.
Sweet. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for all the questions, for all the super chats, for all the comments, and for watching the stream. Thank you so much, Jordan, for joining and clearing up all those questions, even the negative ones. I think you've done a great job in clearing up a lot of stuff, and I hope we've answered pretty much everything. But yeah, everyone go follow the Vegan Camp Out on the socials if you're not doing that already. And I'll be putting some links in the description to the video that Jordan sends me later as well. If you want to, important email addresses and websites and stuff like that. So thank you, everyone. And we will see you all next time.
Thanks, guys.